Welcome to the Stronghold Podcast, where we explore capability and truth. I'm your host, Dave Barton, and today, in episode 12, Fast Food Lifestyle, we'll explore the mind, body, and soul connection across what we choose to consume. Most people have heard of the story of Morgan Spurlock, who, for his documentary Super Size Me, ate McDonald's for 30 days straight, gaining 25 pounds, spiking his cholesterol, and killing his sex drive. His documentary provided a big, bright neon sign that said, "Duh, fast food isn't healthy." Although fast food is almost never considered the key to a healthy lifestyle and is widely known to be damaging to the body, consumption of fast food increases every year in the United States. So, why do people eat fast food? Uh, Before I get started, let me pause. This podcast is not to try to express I have never eaten fast food. I have. It is not to say that I still do not consume fast food. I do. I will say, included in fast food for my family is the local Thai restaurant, Town Bar and Grill, and on the low end, Five Guys. I haven't eaten McDonald's grade fast food for over a decade, if I had to guess. With that established, let's get back to why people eat fast food. Breaking it down, I think we can start with the name fast. Pull up to the drive through, and in minutes, you can have something warm and resembling food. Fast food provides a bailout for the busy person. Running short on time? Fast food. On the road traveling or at the airport? Fast food. Failed to plan or low on groceries? Fast food. Another reason why people eat fast food? Cost. I would argue there is an upfront cost versus long-term cost with eating fast food, but more on that later. Hey, listen, I've been the poor college student, the poor married couple, and the poor young parent. Poor where eating out at Subway or other fast food places was splurging. So cost is real and cost is relevant. Yet another reason I can think of as to why people eat fast food: addiction. Wait, Dave, addiction? I was with you on convenience and expense, but addiction? Here are a few callouts about fast food that would support that. First of all, there's the combination of how they make fast food with high sugar, high fat, and salt content. They also call this the bliss point. It's a term used by food scientists to describe the ideal combination of sugar, fat, and salt that maximizes pleasure and keeps people coming back for more. Also, note in there that I said food scientist. Do you think a company employs food scientists to make their product less desirable? Another factor with addiction and fast food is the highly processed nature of fast food. It's engineered to require minimal chewing and digestion. This makes it easier to overeat because it doesn't trigger the brain's natural satiety signals as effectively as whole foods. Now, the point of this podcast isn't solely about actual fast food, but back to food scientists quickly. They add flavor enhancers. Sometimes it's MSGs and other artificial flavors that enhance the taste, and they create a dependency on unique flavor profiles not found in natural foods. Over time, these develop neurochemical effects that desensitize the brain's reward system. They require more than of the same food to achieve the same pleasure response, much like addictive substances. So, are we okay now calling out addiction as a reason why people eat fast food? If not, there is emotional association, billion-dollar marketing and branding campaigns, packaging, presentation, and more. Here on the Stronghold Podcast, we believe strongly in the mind, body, and soul connection. Among my friends, we often relate what applies for one of them applies for all of them. We just covered some reasons why people eat fast food. And if we combine them into one summary description, we could call it a lifestyle. the fast food lifestyle. Maybe you're thinking this message on fast food is a bit dated. You might be in your 40s or later and got this figured out. You're aware fast food is damaging and that diet matters. Well, I would challenge you and ask, have you applied that knowledge elsewhere in your life? I believe that if we take that fast food lifestyle, it can apply for the relationships that nurture our soul and content that feeds our minds as well. If with food we require nourishment, our relationships require nurturing. As a society, gardening used to supply a substantial portion of the family's food supply. Gardens required planning, seeding, watering, care, attention. Relationships used to follow the same model. Social, face-to-face interactions, communities, and the town square provided gardens to nurture relationships. But schedules, our virtual work, and electronic community have created relationships with no intent or work required. They're easy, including dating apps, enabling a new level of quick hookups, friends with benefits, pornography at our fingertips. And if we compare these types of relationships to food, there are factors making these interactions addictive. Likes, followers, and hookups reward with a dopamine response and provide bliss points once again. Many of these relationships are highly processed, surface level, and sometimes with fake people called bots, or just plain fake and shallow people. They reward, but not on the deep level of meaningful relationships. Then there are similar neurochemical effects that can desensitize the brain's reward system once again, requiring more hookups, more porn, and more time to achieve the same pleasure response. And finally, just like food, there is, again, the emotional association, the billion-dollar marketing and branding campaigns, packaging and presentation, and more to draw us into relationships that mimic the fast food lifestyle. So if food impacts primarily the body and relationships the soul, what impacts the mind? This next one might be the most destructive of them all because it can drive our consumption of food and the relationships we seek. Content consumption. Content consumption, including social media, headlines, the news, both local and national, music, culture, and more, shape our minds daily. The consumption is often without thought, whereas fast food and relationships are mostly acknowledged. We consume content at alarming rates and many times unknowingly. We even casually throw around a term for this: doom scrolling. Doom scrolling is the act of spending too much time consuming negative news or other content online that makes you feel sad, anxious, or angry. It can be dangerous to your mental health and can lead to increased panic and worry, lack of productivity, poor concentration, mental fatigue, depression, anxiety, fear. It can disturb our sleep patterns. It can cause stress-related physical symptoms, and it can lower self-esteem. The primary goal of this episode is to drive home the point that a belief in the mind, body, and soul connection requires us to realize the existence of damaging consumption isn't limited to fast food. Once we come to that realization, we need to act. But you might ask, how can I change course, get healthy, and consume better things? I won't lie to you and say this is always easy. This might be very challenging, as you will go against cultural norms, live opposed to billion-dollar marketing and branding campaigns, and face the useful idiots who are captured by these destructive institutions. I won't lie to you and say this is always easy. What I will promise is it will be worth it. It may not be easy and will require discipline. You see, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. And as Jocko says, discipline equals freedom. Truer words were never spoken. So, how can you empower yourself, loved ones, and community of friends to avoid a fast food lifestyle? What are the alternatives that you will see and that will grow across the mind, body, and soul spectrum? Let's start with fast food. Here's some ideas: cooking at home, meal planning, grocery shopping, and reading ingredients are a great start. There are great apps right now, such as Yucca, to navigate food ingredients, where you scan the barcode and can find out what ingredients mean and what to avoid. We can also find the antithesis to fast food on the far end of the spectrum. No food and intermittent fasting are a great way to handle the planning or cost issues discussed earlier. I watched a documentary called The Real Skinny on Fat in 2018 that shaped the way I looked at food. In it, they asked two questions. The first was, do you eat because you're hungry, or do you eat because you're bored? And the second question was, do you control your food, or does your food control you? With this in mind, I constantly found myself going to the fridge or pantry while working from home. Often this was close to the last time I had eaten, and often I found the answer to "Are you hungry?" as no. I was bored. And of course, who likes to admit that they don't have control in their lives? That simple lens helped me say no to the bitch voice of foods much more frequently. But maybe you don't have to abandon your local quick grabs while on the go. I have an idea. Talking with your local grocery or convenience stores and asking them to carry healthier alternatives can pay off. Consumers drive supply, and the number of voices asking for healthy alternatives is getting louder. Next, let's look at how we find relationships that nurture our soul. I would start with getting to know yourself, improve yourself, seek personal excellence, and you would be shocked at the people and relationships you start to attract. Then, as you get to know yourself, start to understand what you want from a relationship. Remember, I just mentioned discipline as choosing between what you want now and what you want most. When I was in my teens and 20s, what I wanted now was the physical part of relationships. Now, in my 40s, what I want, well, is still the physical part, but I fully realize how much the emotional and intelligent sides of my relationship with my wife, for example, compound the attraction. We serve each other by being there in our vulnerable moments, elevating our intellects, and feeding a mutual and binding energy that we share intimately. Including our spouse and family and other friendships, learning to serve someone else in a relationship, getting out in a community, taking care of yourself to offer more in these settings is the key to cultivating nurturing relationships. So if you are stuck in your head, focused on your own issues, and describe the amount of time you spent in front of a screen as a lot, get outside, find community, go to church, join a rec league, join a group, join a jujitsu gym, go to the mall and people watch. Just change it up. Remember, this is small right steps we're talking about. Lastly, content consumption. The number one recommendation I can make is reading. Reading books primarily, and if possible, actually sitting down and reading, not listening to the audio. There's something called cognitive engagement that involves active versus passive processing. Reading often requires more active engagement, involving decoding and visual processing, which can lead to better retention. Listening can be more passive. And that potentially results in less cognitive involvement and lower retention rates. If you must listen to books, given lifestyle, at least try to do it in an environment that fosters focus. Not a reader or can't remember the last time you read a book? Start somewhere. Maybe go to your local library and check out books so you don't burn money if you get a chapter in and decide the book isn't for you. Ask friends that are similar to you what they're reading. Pick a short book, maybe with pictures. I know, it sounds elementary, but you'll often find reading builds momentum, and finishing a book helps feed it. Aside from reading, I strongly suggest that you do not give up social media. That's right, do not give up social media. There's never been a time in human history that information and education has been more at our fingertips. Using this access is one of the easiest ways to level up. So don't get off social media, but use it with intention, intentional searches. Look for videos that help you level up, podcasts for self-help, and long-form news sources. Listen, local and national news throwing out a dozen topics at you in 20 minutes of airtime is the McDonald's of media. It mostly leaves you uneducated, increases panic, worry, and anxiety, leading to mental fatigue, depression, and fear, just like bad food. Start intentionally seeking out long-form sources for your news. Print off papers and articles and read them. Develop an educated and informed view on things. Going back to relationships, this type of content consumption can enhance your community and conversations and lead to deeper relationships. Who do you prefer being around? The friend that bitches and moans about everything? Or the friend that listens to you, looks for solutions, is informed, and takes action to empower? Right. Me too. These are only a small sample of steps to take to remove yourself from a fast food lifestyle. But start taking them, and you will find yourself among others on the same path. All of these suggestions and alternatives take time. One right decision or wrong decision avoided, stacked on top of the prior, adds up. And with consistency equals tangible change. Earlier, I referenced upfront cost versus long-term cost. My family and I have been on about a 20-year journey to extract ourselves from the fast food lifestyle. We were a young family heading down the destructive route of the standard American diet, shallow relationships, and propaganda content. As young parents, we taught our children about what we consumed and why we consumed. We did it as we ourselves learned the importance of nutrition. We avoided more and more of the fast foods in life. And I'm so happy we did. The key wasn't preaching, but taking action together as a family. As a dad, I didn't tell my sons not to eat junk food while I kept that stash of candy in the drawer for myself. We also modeled ourselves after adults who honored the relationships in their lives. We showed up for them and our friends and family, and our marriage was built on respect. Once again, I will say the path to replace the fast food lifestyle across mind, body, and soul will not be easy. We will meet resistance. We will lose friends. We will have to give up things that we thought we couldn't live without. But if we can overcome what we want now with what we want most, we will find discipline. And along the journey, we will find friends who are also on that path and make it much more enjoyable. A disciplined mentality, a calm mind, and a fit body cannot be bought. They must be earned. These are the opposite of a fast food lifestyle. They are earned every day. They involve victories, they require failures, and they get stronger as you exercise them. As a great friend of mine recently said, life is peaks and valleys until our last breath. If that doesn't excite you, then maybe you are living a fast food lifestyle. So change things up and seek higher purposes. Thank you for joining me and listening into the Stronghold Podcast.